Over the years, ELT has evolved dramatically, reflecting not just changes in language, but also in society, technology, and our understanding of how people learn. In this lesson, we'll trace the journey from early, traditional methods to the dynamic, communicative approaches used today. By the end, you'll have a clear picture of how teaching English has transformed, why these changes happened, and what they mean for learners and teachers alike. Let's begin by looking at the earliest approaches and see how they set the stage for everything that followed. Before we dive into the details, let's clarify our objectives. First, we aim to understand how English language teaching methodologies have evolved over time. Second, we'll analyze and compare different teaching methods, considering their effectiveness in various contexts. By doing this, you'll gain not only historical knowledge, but also practical insights into what works best for different learners and situations. This foundation will help you appreciate the diversity of approaches in ELT and prepare you to make informed choices as a teacher or learner. Let's start with the earliest approaches to teaching English. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, two methods dominated: the grammar translation method and the direct method. The grammar translation method focused on reading and translating texts, while the direct method emphasized speaking and listening, using only the target language in class. These approaches reflected different beliefs about what it meant to know a language and how best to teach it. Understanding these foundations is key to appreciating later developments. The grammar translation method, or GTM, emerged in the early 19th century. Originally designed for teaching classical languages like Latin and Greek, it was later adapted for modern languages, including English. GTM is rooted in the belief that learning a language means understanding its grammar and being able to read its literature. In practice, this method emphasizes explicit grammar instruction, translation exercises, and memorization of vocabulary. Speaking and listening are rarely practiced, making it a very text-focused approach. Imagine a typical grammar translation classroom. Students are given a passage in English to translate into their native language and then back into English. The teacher explains grammar rules deductively, and students memorize lists of vocabulary and verb conjugations. There's little room for conversation or spontaneous language use. While this method can help learners understand grammar and build reading skills, it often leaves them unprepared for real-life communication. In response to the limitations of the grammar translation method, the direct method appeared in the late 19th century. Inspired by how children naturally acquire language, it emphasizes using only the target language in the classroom. Teachers avoid translation and instead use conversation, visual aids, and real-life objects to teach vocabulary and grammar. The focus is on oral communication, with grammar taught inductively through context and interaction. Picture a direct method classroom. The teacher uses pictures, gestures, and real objects to introduce new words and structures. Students practice dialogues, answer questions, and engage in role plays, all in English. There's a strong emphasis on pronunciation and listening comprehension. This method encourages students to think in the target language and use it actively, making learning more dynamic and interactive compared to earlier approaches. Moving into the mid-23rd century, the audiolingual method, or ALM, became popular, especially in the United States during World War II. Based on behaviorist theories, ALM views language learning as habit formation. The classroom is filled with drills, pattern practice, and repetition. Students listen to model dialogues and repeat them until they become automatic, with the goal of minimizing errors and reinforcing correct language patterns. In an audiolingual classroom, students might listen to a recorded dialogue and repeat it several times. The teacher leads substitution drills, where students change one word in a sentence and repeat the new version. The emphasis is on accuracy and automaticity, with little focus on meaning or real-life communication. While this method can build strong language habits, it may not fully prepare students for spontaneous conversation. By the 1970s, educators recognized the need for a more meaningful approach to language learning. Communicative language teaching, or CLT, emerged as a response to the limitations of previous methods. CLT is based on the idea that the main goal of language learning is to communicate effectively in real-life situations. It values not just grammatical accuracy, but also the ability to use language appropriately in different social contexts. In a CLT classroom, students might role-play ordering food at a restaurant or asking for directions. The teacher uses authentic materials and interactive activities to help students practice using English in realistic situations. The focus is on fluency and the ability to convey meaning rather than on perfect grammar. This approach encourages students to experiment with language and develop confidence in their communication skills. Building on the principles of CLT, task-based language teaching, or TBLT, became prominent in the 1980s. TBLT centers learning around meaningful, goal-oriented tasks. Students use English to accomplish specific objectives, such as planning a trip or solving a problem. The idea is that language learning happens naturally as students engage in real-world communication, making the process both practical and motivating. In a TBLT classroom, students might work together to plan a holiday, complete a group project, or solve a practical problem using English. The teacher acts as a facilitator, providing language input and feedback as needed. This method encourages collaboration, critical thinking, and the use of English for real communication, helping students develop both language skills and life skills. Another modern approach is Content and Language Integrated Learning, or CLIL. This method integrates language learning with subject content, such as science or history. Students learn English while studying other subjects, making language acquisition more meaningful and relevant. CLIL is especially popular in bilingual and international education settings, where students need to use English to access academic content. Since the 1990s, ELT has entered what's known as the post-method era. Teachers now recognize that no single method works for every learner or context. Instead, they draw on a range of approaches, adapting their teaching to the needs of their students. This era values flexibility, learner autonomy, and the integration of skills. Teachers act as reflective practitioners, constantly evaluating and adjusting their methods to achieve the best outcomes. Let's compare two major approaches: the grammar translation method and communicative language teaching. GTM is highly structured, focusing on grammar and translation, while CLT prioritizes communication and real-life language use. GTM can help learners develop strong reading and writing skills, but may leave them unable to speak or understand spoken English. CLT, on the other hand, builds fluency and confidence, but may sometimes overlook grammatical accuracy. Each method has its strengths and weaknesses. Grammar translation is excellent for developing reading comprehension and understanding grammar, but it often neglects speaking and listening. Communicative language teaching excels at building practical communication skills, but some students may struggle with accuracy. The best approach often depends on the learner's goals, context, and preferences. Teachers today are encouraged to blend methods to suit their students' needs. Today, teachers often use a mix of methods, drawing on the strengths of each. For example, they might use grammar exercises from GTM to build accuracy, while also incorporating communicative activities from CLT to develop fluency. The key is to be flexible and responsive to students' needs, creating a balanced and effective learning environment. Let's look at a practical example. In a grammar translation lesson, students might translate a literary passage and answer grammar questions. In a CLT lesson, they might role-play a conversation at a cafe. Each method offers unique benefits. GTM builds analytical skills, while CLT fosters real-world communication. Teachers can combine these approaches to help students become both accurate and fluent English users. A great way to understand these methods is through role-play. Try teaching a mini-lesson using the grammar translation method, then switch to communicative language teaching. Reflect on the challenges and benefits of each. This hands-on activity helps you experience the differences firsthand and think critically about which methods work best in different situations. To wrap up, assessment activities like short answer questions and presentations can help you consolidate your understanding of ELT methodologies. Reflect on the historical development of a method and consider its impact on language teaching today. Engaging with additional resources, such as readings and videos, and participating in online discussions will deepen your insight and prepare you for real-world teaching challenges.